Hello and good evening. Fresh COVID cases around the country maintain their alarming surge today, as well as different authorities and people stepped up their efforts to fight the pandemic. But there's good news now on the vaccination front, with a third Russian vaccine set to join India's armory for inoculating against the disease. We'll be talking to experts about this on Newsnight tonight. I'm Gautam Roy. But first, as always, our headlines. The Election Commission bans Mamata Banerjee from campaigning for 24 hours, finding her guilty of violating the Model Code of Conduct. The EC order cites portions of the West Bengal Chief Minister's election speeches, where she appealed to voters on religious grounds and urged people to gherao central forces. The CM announces protest dharna at noon tomorrow in Kolkata. Prime Minister Narendra Modi holds rallies in Bardhaman, Kalyani and Barasat. Charges TMC of intimidating Dalits and voters from the backward communities. Says soon misrule will end in the state with the formation of a BJP government. Union Minister Amit Shah also campaigns in Dhupguri, Himtabad and Siliguri. Promises the Gorkha community an SIT on charges of atrocities by TMC left cadres. The Subject Expert Committee recommends Russia's Sputnik V vaccine for emergency use authorization. Drug Controller General of India to take the final call. The ongoing nationwide vaccination campaign notches up 10.45 crore cumulative doses. Corona curfew now imposed in Haryana from 9 p.m. to 5 a.m. Maharashtra remains on top of lists of states with highest number of daily COVID cases. Record 63,294 infected in the last 24 hours and 349 fatalities in the state. Class 10 and 12 state board exams postponed. Nation sees new peak of 1,68,912 fresh cases in a day. CBI summons Maharashtra's former Home Minister Anil Deshmukh for questioning. Grilling to take place on Wednesday in connection with the extortion charges levelled by former Mumbai Police Commissioner Parambir Singh. The President gives assent to the appointment of next Chief Election Commissioner Sushil Chandra. He will assume office on Tuesday, with Sunil Arora's term getting over. Iran blames regional arch-enemy Israel for a sabotage incident at its key Natanz nuclear site and vows revenge. Iran's foreign minister charges Israel of coming in the way of lifting of sanctions by vitiating the progress made in reviving the Iran nuclear deal. And over 30 lakh devotees take the second Shahi Snan on the occasion of Somvati Amavasya in the holy Ganges at the Hardwar Kumbh amidst COVID restrictions. Next Shahi Snan on Wednesday. Well, first up, the Election Commission has imposed a 24-hour-long ban on West Bengal Chief Minister and Trinamool Congress Supremo Mamata Banerjee for violating the Model Code of Conduct. The ban has come into effect from 8 p.m. on the 12th of April, that is tonight, and will be enforced till 8 p.m. on the 13th of April, which is Tuesday. This is the third notice that has been issued to the Bengal Chief Minister from the poll panel. The Election Commission, in a 5-page order, has said that the Commission has carefully considered the matter and is of considered view that Ms. Mamata Banerjee, who also happens to be the Chief Minister of the state, has, in violation of the provisions of Model Code of Conduct as well as Section 123(3) and 3A of the Representation of People's Act 1951 and Sections 186, 189 and 505 of the Indian Penal Code 1860, made highly insinuating and provocative remarks laden with serious potential to break down of law and order and thereby adversely affecting the election process. And with these concluding remarks, the Commission made the decision to bar Mamata Banerjee from campaigning for 24 hours. It said, now therefore the Commission hereby condemns such statements portent with serious law and order problems across the state and sternly warns Ms. Mamata Banerjee and advises her to desist from using such statements while making public utterances during the period when Model Code of Conduct is in force. The Commission also imposes a ban of 24 hours on Ms. Mamata Banerjee from campaigning in any manner from 8 p.m. of 12/4/21 till 8 p.m. of 13/4/2021. And Mamata Banerjee was quick to respond as well. She has decided to sit on dharna in protest. She tweeted, and I quote, "To protest against the undemocratic and unconstitutional decision of the Election Commission of India, I will sit on dharna tomorrow at Gandhi Murti, Kolkata from 12 noon. And reacting to the allegation of West Bengal Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee that central forces were working on Union Home Minister Amit Shah's instructions during the State Assembly polls, Director General of Central Reserve Police Force Kuldeep Singh on Monday clarified that all the paramilitary forces were working according to the Election Commission's directions. After 4 people were killed in Sitalkuchi during the 4th phase of the Assembly elections on the 10th of April, West Bengal Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee had blamed Union Home Minister Amit Shah, calling him the main conspirator.
लेकिन कोई भी पैरामिलिट्री फोर्स या कोई भी उनके राज्य के ही जितने लोग इलेक्शन कमीशन के दायित्व में हैं, सब इलेक्शन कमीशन के निर्देश पे काम कर रहे हैं, इस बात की मैं आपको गारंटी देता हूं।
Now, with the polling wound up in Assam, Tamil Nadu, Kerala and Puducherry, political parties have turned all their campaigning energies onto the remaining 4 phases of elections in West Bengal. Prime Minister Narendra Modi held 3 rallies in the state today, where he took on Mamata Banerjee's TMC with full ferocity, charging her with intimidating voters. Home Minister Amit Shah also held rallies and road shows, while the West Bengal Chief Minister too canvassed at multiple locations to hold on to power in the state.
Campaigning for the remaining 4 phases of polls in West Bengal continues at full steam. Top leaders of all major political parties are busy campaigning and are making all-out effort to woo the voters. So far, voting for 135 seats has been held in 4 phases, while polling for 159 seats will be held in the remaining 4 phases. Prime Minister Narendra Modi addressed back-to-back rallies in his whirlwind tour of West Bengal on Monday. The PM addressed rallies in Bardhaman, Kalyani and Barasat, where he hit out at West Bengal Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee. Prime Minister promised to effect a course correction in the state and remove misgovernance from West Bengal. He also assured that BJP will get rid of the Tola Basi culture in the state. Prime Minister also said that people in West Bengal have made up their mind to give BJP a huge win in the assembly polls. Prime Minister further said that TMC leaders are openly threatening members of SC, ST and OBC communities for their love and support to the BJP and to him in the state.
दीदी के लोग बंगाल के शेड्यूल कास्ट अनुसूचित जाति के हमारे भाई बहनों को गाली देने लगे। एससी समुदाय को, अनुसूचित जाति के भाई बहनों को दीदी के करीबी लोग कहने लगे हैं, उनको भिखारी कहने लगे हैं, भिखारी। मेरे प्यारे भाइयों बहनों, बाबा साहब आंबेडकर की आत्मा को दीदी के लोगों के ये कड़वे बोल सुनकर कितना कष्ट हुआ होगा, ये कल्पना से भी परे है कि कोई व्यक्ति ऐसी भाषा बोल सकता है। लेकिन दुर्भाग्य है, दुखद है, ये सच्चाई है।
On the other hand, Home Minister and senior BJP leader Amit Shah addressed rallies in Dhupguri and Himtabad and held roadshow in Kalimpong and Siliguri. Amit Shah reminded people of injustice and atrocities committed by the Mamata Banerjee dispensation against members of Gorkha community. He promised that an SIT will be formed to probe the matter and culprits will be sent to jails. Shah also promised to build an AIIMS in North Bengal.
उत्तर बंगाल में एक एम्स बनाएंगे। हमने तय किया है कि उत्तर बंगाल में एक सेंट्रल यूनिवर्सिटी बनाएंगे और एक पहाड़ को टूरिज्म का हब बनाने के लिए 1000 करोड़ रुपए का खर्च
Mamata Banerjee too is busy campaigning and is making all-out attempt to return back to power. She appealed to people to vote in favor of the TMC candidates in Dum-Dum. Mamata also urged the Election Commission to remain impartial.
We take people's land only after taking their permission. When we take even an inch of land of anybody, first we talk to them, then we provide an alternate land to them. After that, we take their land. You may have seen in Singhur how we help to return the land of farmers. We are doing the same at tea gardens and other places.
Meanwhile, the Election Commission is constantly keeping a strict vigil to prevent violence during polls and to ensure that guidelines regarding Model Code of Conduct are being followed during the elections. Besides, a campaign is also being run to enable the eligible voters to come to the polling booth for polling. Bureau Report, DD India.
Now, that's as far as elections go. Now, India is likely to get another potent weapon in its armory soon to battle the COVID-19 pandemic. The DCGI Subject Expert Committee has given emergency use authorization recommendation for Russia's Sputnik V vaccine, and it could soon become the third vaccine which can be administered to eligible persons in the country. The nationwide vaccination drive ongoing in the country also made progress on day 2 of Tika Utsav, with the cumulative figure crossing 10.545 crore doses. Here's more.
Amid the worrying scenario of surging COVID cases, there is a good news on the vaccination front. The Subject Expert Committee has given emergency authorization recommendation for usage of Russia's Sputnik V vaccine. DGCI will now consider the SEC recommendation related to Sputnik V. This vaccine is also administered in 2 doses. Hyderabad-based Dr. Reddy's Laboratories has a tie-up to bring the Russian vaccine to India. The Russian Direct Investment Fund had partnered with Dr. Reddy's Labs in September last year for clinical trials in India. The Sputnik V vaccine is said to have an efficacy of 92%. It will be the third COVID vaccine to be available in India after Oxford AstraZeneca's Covishield and Bharat Biotech's Covaxin. Meanwhile, the battle against the virus is on in the country in right earnest through the world's largest vaccination drive. Day 2 of Tika Utsav has seen the cumulative number of COVID-19 vaccine doses administered in the country crossing 10.45 crore on Monday. People are participating wholeheartedly to break the chain of transmission. People aged above 45 years along with the elderly reached Mumbai's BKC Center for their vaccine dose according to the guidelines issued by the Union Health Ministry. Even in national capital Delhi, people took part in special vaccination sessions organized during Tika Utsav. A special session was also held at the Prasar Bharati office in Delhi, where the CEO of Prasar Bharati took his vaccination shot.
I am very thankful to the team that has come here कि आज प्रसार भारती में ये पहली बार हो रहा है एंड सभी जो भी एलिजिबल है हमारे एम्प्लॉइज़ और हमारा जितना भी वर्क फोर्स है वो सभी इस सेटअप का एडवांटेज ले और जल्द से जल्द अपना टीका करवाए.
But the rising COVID cases has led to the postponement of the Maharashtra State Board Class 10th and 11th exams. The coming days could see the state government bringing in stricter restrictions and even a lockdown has not been ruled out.
तो आने वाले दिनों के अंदर एसओपी जल्दी से जल्दी तैयार की जाएगी और लोगों को तकलीफ ना हो इस तरीके का लॉकडाउन जो है मुंबई और महाराष्ट्र के सामने आ सकता है.
Latest figures reveal 1,68,912 fresh COVID cases have emerged in the country during the last 24 hours. Maharashtra remains the state with the highest number of daily fresh cases. 63,294 fresh cases were registered in Maharashtra over the last 24 hours. 904 fatalities were also registered countrywide during the last 24 hours. Of these, 349 people died over the last 24 hours in Maharashtra alone. Chhattisgarh occupies the second spot in terms of fatalities, with 122 people losing their lives. Uttar Pradesh is in second place in terms of fresh infections with 15,276 cases. 10,774 fresh cases were also logged in Delhi during the last 24 hours. Active number of cases nationwide now stands at 12,01,009. The national recovery rate has reached 89.86%. Fresh cases are also on the rise in the Union Territory of Chandigarh, where the authorities have expressed concern about the same.
As of now, I have already made 80 containment zones So that has also helped us. So situation is critical. We are taking action.
In the all-round effort to control the spread of disease by administration and people, Lucknow police was seen in the midst of people distributing masks and also issuing challans to those not following safety protocols. The UP Chief Minister also held a meeting to assess the situation. Gujarat High Court, while taking cognizance of the COVID situation in the state, sought information from the state government on steps taken to tackle it. Even in the Supreme Court, after 44 court staff members were found to be infected, the judges decided to conduct proceedings from their residences over video link. Bureau Report, DD India.
And that brings up our In Focus tonight. Sputnik 5 shot in the arm for fighting COVID. And to talk about it, we had Dr. S.K. Sareen, Director, Institute of Liver and Biliary Science, and also Lieutenant General retired Dr. V. Ravishankar is with us. He is CEO and cardiac surgeon, Leelavati Hospital in Mumbai. Good evening to you both. First, to you, Dr. Sareen. This Sputnik 5 vaccine, once it's approved, what sort of potential does it have to ensure that the nationwide vaccination drive, which is the largest in the world already, gets a further fillip, gets added pace? Already we've crossed the figure of 10.45 crore doses.
Well, the first tenet for getting any vaccine to be approved would be that it cannot be inferior to the existing vaccines. And on that, I think the Sputnik 5 vaccine has shown and has been published, the data has been published in Lancet about a few weeks ago, that it has an efficacy close to 92% or so.
Yes.
So that way, this vaccine in no way is inferior. This is a heat inactivated kind of a vaccine. So the virus is actually not active, but it has all the properties of a virus. So once you put this kind of a dead virus into something like another virus and put it into your body, this goes into the cells, the immune cells, which start making the antibodies. So this is a good vaccine. And in the large trial which was done in Moscow, and almost I think 26,000 people participated in that trial, it was shown. And the advantage is also, when this trial was done, the first dose and the second dose was given after 3 weeks, not 4 weeks. So
Okay.
after 3 weeks and 1 week after that, means let us say today you have given on the 12th the vaccine, the second dose is after 3 weeks. 1 week after that, if you do the antibodies, those antibodies were protective. Almost in 92% the antibodies were good. So in 4 weeks time, unlike the AstraZeneca or unlike the other vaccines, the time period is less. And if we can use this vaccine, and it is a safe vaccine, that trial also showed that the side effects were less than 0.1% or so, the serious side effects. So therefore, this vaccine has been found to be safe, and I'm very happy in that way that the government and the expert committee has approved, the DCGI has approved this vaccine, and this vaccine will add to what we need rapidly to immunize our population at large. So I think it's a very good step, it's a good day for us, and a very strong, potent, effective, safe vaccine has come for people to be used in India.
Yes, the DCGI Subject Expert Committee has recommended that it be allowed to be used for emergency purposes. Now, if I could come to you, Dr. Ravishankar, apart from the fact the advantages that were mentioned by Dr. S.K. Sareen, does this vaccine completely seamlessly fit into the way vaccinations have been carried on so far in the country in terms of the cold storage chain and other logistics? Does it meet those criteria as well? Because there were concerns about other vaccines that could be available, but there are certain other exigencies that they do not fit so well into the kind of vaccination campaign that is already ongoing in our country.
Good evening, Gautam.
Good evening.
That's a very good point. Sputnik 5 also requires just 2 to 8 degrees centigrade to preserve it and transport it, which in essence means that we can transport this vaccine to the remotest part of the globe, anywhere in the globe, anywhere in our country. And that is a plus point, because where the cold chain has to be maintained, and if it is not within this, it becomes really difficult for the government to ensure that the cold chain is maintained. Otherwise, it loses its potency. And with the phase 3 trials going on, right now in UAE, Belarus, Venezuela, and India, and now it's having been sanctioned for use. I think it's a plus point and a very great venture for the government to approve it, so that we have 3 vaccines at the moment, and you're aware that there is a shortage in some of the states, and this is one way to get over the shortage by having more companies come in, more vaccines being available, which will help to vaccinate the population at large. Let us not forget, the only way to tackle this pandemic is either develop herd immunity, which is not going to be very soon. It's not even more than 30%. And the second and the most important is vaccination, immunization of the public at large.
Right. And of course, Sputnik 5 will also be available in India. It will be through Dr. Reddy's laboratories. So that is another plus point, isn't it, Dr. Siri?
Yes, it's a very important part, and it also shows that our manufacturers like Dr. Reddy's can make outstanding contribution. They can make the vaccine. We have the capability, and a bulk production is possible. I think as soon as we start rolling out this vaccine, it should be, quite useful. And it's an intramuscular injection like any other. There is no special need for any training in this. And to me, as my colleague just now said, the important part is there is no extra burden on transport. The same mechanism of storage, delivery, and distribution to all different parts and vaccination can be done. The other advantage of this Sputnik vaccine is that it has given in the earlier data 2 types of immunity. One, that when you give, it makes antibodies. Now, just for refreshing your memory, antibodies are made by B cells. You have white cells. One of them is a T as in Tata and B as in Bombay. So your immunity generally comes from T cells, which process the virus and remember it forever. And B cells make antibodies. So everyone is only remembering how many antibodies, how high is the level of antibodies, but they forget that the memory stays in the T cell, which is specific. So this Sputnik vaccine gives huge advantage. It also gives you a B cell which makes good antibodies, which last long. Second, it gives you advantage in the T cell. Okay. So the virus and its shape, its structure, its proteins are remembered. Now, what is the advantage? Suppose somebody gets infected. After having taken the vaccine, then it is 100% effective in preventing a serious disease. So the person who has taken the vaccine will not get a severe infection. This is what was claimed in the Lancet paper. This is not my data. The company and the data has shown that if you have taken this vaccine, the memory of your body's immune cell is long, and the virus, if it attacks you, will not be able to produce a severe disease. It is true for most vaccines, right. But for Sputnik, this has been shown to be nearly 100%. So by having this vaccine, we are having something in our armor which gives you antibodies, 92%, and also prevents you from having a severe infection. And of course, the ease of storage, distribution. So we now are a happy lot. The medical people are a happy lot. But now the people have to accept, come forward, and the government has to provide, hopefully, the vaccine to all.
Yes, I'm sure it will join the armory pretty soon of what we have against the virus. The other concern, of course, Dr. Shankar, is the way we're seeing the surge in the country at the moment, and there's a lot of speculation as to why is it actually happening. Is it because people have become more careless? It ranges from that to a number of variants coming in that are more infectious. Now, our response to this entire surge, to what extent does it depend on first figuring out why the surge is happening in the first place?
One of the reasons is probably the mutant strain which has come in. Let us not forget that when Covaxin and Covishield was manufactured, it was based on the virus available in 2020. Now we are in 2021. It has undergone some mutation. So the worry for all of us is, why are people who already got vaccinated, either first dose or even after both doses, are still developing the infection, even after 15 days of developing antibodies? My view is that we have to continuously do a genomic surveillance, find out what is the mutant strain available, and our R&D has to be such that we keep progressing and trying to get newer vaccines which will match the current the virus which is floating around in the country. Social distancing and wearing mask is definitely the most important vaccine that is available to us. And apart from that, we have to ensure that the younger lot also get vaccinated. I've said earlier also, the so-called doorstep vaccination is probably very vital. It does not mean that you knock on somebody's door and vaccinate. We must be able to take an emergency team, go to colonies, high-rise buildings where there are a lot of people staying, and ensure the maximum people get vaccinated. At the same time, looking after any adverse events that might occur.
Right. And Dr. Sareen, where do you lie as far as this entire matter is concerned of identifying what the surge is all about? Would that help us in figuring out how to combat it? Because if it is because of mutant strains, then the vaccination might need to be tweaked, and perhaps the way that our COVID protocols are there, the kind of masks that we wear, they might also need to be given another look.
Well, the way the virus has spread and the surge is occurring, it is actually very worrisome. In fact, it is scary. And nobody knows when it is going to peak, when there will be a plateau and when there will be a decline. But most likely it might be another few weeks, 4 to 6 weeks at least, before we may see the plateau in this. Right now, like in Delhi, the positivity has gone to 12% plus, which is huge. And now we may also be seeing, unfortunately more deaths. So we need to be prepared. And the reasons for this are multiple. Most of us have known that there has been a complacency and leniency both by the people and maybe some of the authorities. But we need to realize that the spread is so fast. So I totally agree with Dr. Ravi Shankar and also feel that we need to sequence. This may be a Delhi mutant, it may be India mutant, it may be Mumbai mutant, but the virus has the ability to mutate so fast that we are unable to catch. So I would put it the other way. We should consider that every infection now is from a mutant virus. We should consider that this is difficult to contain. We therefore need to take extra steps, more efforts. So we should sequence, we should certainly find out the mutant, but in that process we may delay for months. Therefore, we should now consider that the spread is going to be faster. We have to be stricter. Our mindset has to change. The night curfew doesn't mean that the virus doesn't spread in the day, but the night curfew is a reminder of, in a way, that look, you have to behave now. You have to understand you can't eat together. You can't take out your mask and speak. You can't take out the mask and drink and laugh and shout. That is not possible. Then the virus spreads very fast. So our first vaccine is a good mask in the public. There is no substitute to this vaccine, and the mask must cover the nose as well as mouth, just not the mouth. And also remember that eating together, sitting out and sharing meals is one of the easiest way, because you have taken out the mask for 15 minutes, 20 minutes, and the virus can spread in that to many, many more people. The other part in this is, like, those who have got vaccinated are still getting infected. That is really worrisome. It means that there is a mutant strain and we may end up having vaccine escape mutants. Means the current vaccine, even if it is given, virus has changed and it can infect. And vaccine escape mutants are very difficult. Okay. The third problem which I envisage in future is that if we all get vaccinated with, let's say, South African variant, the current vaccines are not effective on that. So we need to be careful in all our steps. We need to vaccinate fast. As many people as we can give the first dose, I think we should vaccinate very well. Also, we must know what is our antibody level. We are not doing it, but those who can afford, there is no way that government can afford and government can advise. But I would suggest that after your second dose, at least get your antibody levels. If you have not made any antibody, then you really are more and more prone. Let's say the current vaccine, AstraZeneca and others are...
Yeah, but how much time does one need to give, Dr. Sareen, after the second dose to be able to figure out whether the antibodies are there or not?
Yes, after the second dose, for the current vaccines, you wait 4 weeks. And if your antibody levels are at least 5 to 10 times above the control value, let's say the control is just about 5 and yours is like 50, you are at least in a good shape. That doesn't mean you can take off your guard, but at least you have some protection. But after second dose, if you have not made any antibody, you are vulnerable. You have to wait for new generation of vaccine. We are only in the first generation of vaccine. What I want to emphasize is vaccination is not equivalent to immunization. Immunization means you have protective antibodies, but we have in no way known the level of what is a protective antibody. There is no scientific evidence today to say if you have that many antibodies, you are protected. You only say you make antibodies. So therefore, we need to know our antibodies. We need to be highly careful about our own behavior. And if you have good antibodies, at least you have some chance that you will be protected, or if you get infected, the disease will be mild. So people must know the difference between vaccination and immunization.
Okay. And Dr. Ravi Shankar, the other apprehension is about, seeing all these corona curfews coming in, night curfews coming in. People are worried that it may lead to a lockdown as well in especially areas like Maharashtra. Do people need to really be concerned about lockdowns at a stage when the virus is spreading so swiftly? Shouldn't they be more concerned about, lives being saved?
Absolutely. I think I'm now in Bombay, so I can, I'm actually visualizing this surge for the last few days, and it's really, really frightening, especially in my hospital and many hospitals. The number of people who come in ambulances, we don't have place for them. Triages are full. And some kind of a lockdown has already been established in Maharashtra, weekend as well as the night curfew.
Yes.
And the Chief Minister has warned the public at large that if you do not follow the proper norms of behavior of social distancing and masking, sooner or later a heavy hand has to come on all of us and there has to be a total lockdown. Though I think for economy it's not going to be good at all. If you're going to stop the suburban trains, that is going to be a really retrograde step. And already migrants have started moving back. It is not as bad as it was in the first phase.
Yes.
But yes, if we are not careful, I think the government is going to come on all of us with a very heavy hand.
Yes. Again, but there is no talk, and the Prime Minister really said that lockdowns need to be the last resort, and a nationwide lockdown is really not around the corner. Is that something that should be seen as a sign of how genuine efforts and serious efforts being made to control the spread of the disease, Dr. Sareen?
Well, efforts are being made, serious efforts by every government, every chief minister, or even the prime minister. But, we are very worried as translational or clinical people, like big melas or, even rallies, they can spread. And there is no way that you can behave with all the proper COVID appropriate behavior there. And this has happened in the last 3 to 4 months, festive seasons or New Year's and others. They have made us relax, and now in a much bigger way. So I am apprehensive that next few months may be testing time for India. We may cross the highest numbers by any other country and more deaths. So my request is to everyone that if you want to go out or do something, just ensure that you have a proper mask and you have just covered. You save yourself and you save others. You do not know whether you have the virus. You do not know the other guy has the virus. So our salvation can only come if we all work together. And if everyone, 100% people wear the mask properly, if they are listening and they wear the mask properly, the decline can start in about 4 weeks' time. There is no way that the virus will spread. There is no way that it can infect anybody. There is no way that people will die. So if all that is considered, the best vaccine you have today and the best protection arm you have is your mask. Those who are working in hospitals, I suggest they should wear double mask. Okay. They are the ones who are more prone. In a given day, like ILBS, Liver Institute, we do about 1200, 1300 rat tests. People who have come as attendant, not as patient, 70 people found positive. How do you know? He has just brought a patient from somewhere. Now the doctor, the nurse, the healthcare worker will get infected. So for those working in frontline and healthcare workers, there should be probably more precautions. Of course, they are doing it, but they have to see patients also. That is their duty. But they shouldn't fall sick. They will get exhausted. So my suggestion is that yes, you all must get vaccine for civilians, for people, for population, but for healthcare workers, frontline workers, I think extra care is required now, because we may be going through a phase of few months where we may all get stretched, and that is not going to be helpful. We don't want doctors, nurses and others to fall sick or get admitted. So therefore, extra caution and of course proper vaccination for all of us is mandatory today.
Right. And the way the surge is going, Dr. Ravi Shankar, people have started also wondering whether they're wearing the right kind of mask. People have started wondering if they should only be wearing N95 masks or the 3-ply surgical masks that you see, frontline workers wear. Is that speculation, completely unfounded, or do you feel that there is some merit in that?
No, I think it's very important to wear the right kind of mask, and the best mask is, of course, the N95, because 95% of the particles are filtered out. And even those N95 should be NIOSH certified. There are certain certifications required. 3-ply masks are very good, provided it is actually manufactured by leading companies. We have a lot of cloth masks available, very fashionable masks. I think it's more of a fashion rather than protection. As Dr. Sarin said, we in the hospital, all of us wear double mask, both 3-ply as well as N95. It becomes very difficult, especially if you are operating. But to save our skin and to prevent the spread of infection, it's very important to mask properly. And you must get the masks which are manufactured in the stringent manufacturing guidelines as has been laid out.
Okay. Well, let's hope that these measures are enough to get this surge under control, and we pretty soon have the third vaccine in the mix as well, to ensure that the vaccination drive that is going on in the country gets further accelerated. On that note, I thank you for joining us this evening, Dr. Ravi Shankar as well as Dr. Sarin.
Thank you, Gautam.
Okay, moving on, the effect of the rising COVID cases and fear of a lockdown had a telling impact on the Indian equity markets as well today. The benchmark indices crashed on Monday as rising COVID-19 cases in the country stoked fears of lockdowns. Sensex and Nifty both plummeted to show the nervousness in the bourses. The market went on a downhill slide and investors' wealth declined by 8.69 lakh crore rupees. The 30-share Sensex plunged 1,707.94 points or 3.44% to close at 47,883.38. NSE Nifty tanked 524.05 points or 3.53% to settle at 14,310.80. The surge in coronavirus cases is threatening to derail recovery in Asia's third largest economy. Selling resulted in decline in all the 11 sector gauges except the index of drug makers. Now, more than 30 lakh devotees took a holy dip in the Ganges in Haridwar on the occasion of Somvati Amavasya Shahi Asnan at the Kumbh today. Strict vigil was kept by the administration at the bathing spots in view of the COVID pandemic through multiple means.
Thousands of devotees from across the country and around the world flocked to Haridwar for a holy dip on the occasion of Somvati Amavasya Shahi Asnan at Kumbh in Haridwar. More than 30 lakh devotees took holy dip in the river Ganga on Monday. In Har Ki Pauri area, devotees were able to take holy dip till 7 in the morning. Following that, time was reserved for the saints and sadhus.
यहाँ आकर के दर्शन करूं और सारे पूरे विश्व के बारे में जो इस महामारी फैला है उसके बारे में कुछ प्रार्थना करूं, ताकि ये सब जितनी भी महामारी है वो सब से हम लोगों को छुटकारा मिल सके, उनसे निजात पा सकूं और सारे लोगों का कल्याण हो सके।
जब तो घर चलते समय था कि कोविड में जा रहे हैं कहीं कुछ न हो, लेकिन यहाँ आते माँ गंगा की कृपा से सब कुछ ठीक है, कोई दिक्कत नहीं है, व्यवस्था भी सरकार का ठीक है।
All the 13 akharas took holy dip in the river Ganga on the Shahi Snan of Mahakumbh. They included 7 Sannyasi Akhada, 3 Bairagi and 3 Vaishnav Akhada. Members of the Niranjani Akharas were the first who reached Har Ki Pauri and took a dip in the Ganga and took a dip of faith. Meanwhile, the administration kept strict vigil in the area in the view of ongoing pandemic.
हमारे लिए बड़ी चुनौती हम इसको मानते आए हैं और जो आज का दिन था सोमवती अमावस्या इसको हम इस महाकुंभ का दूसरा सबसे बड़ा स्नान मान के चल रहे थे। तो यद्यपि कोरोना की वजह से थोड़ा भीड़ कम हुई है किंतु भीड़ प्रबंधन, यातायात प्रबंधन और जुलूस और अखाड़ों का आपसी जो है तालमेल बैठाना और उनके शाही स्नान को प्रबंधन करना, ये सब हमारी चुनौतियां हैं। साथ साथ कोविड भी नई चुनौती जुड़ गई है।
The area around 2 kilometers of Har Ki Pauri has been declared as zero zone. Only those on foot are allowed to go there. Passes were distributed to traders by the police administration. Besides, a control command center has been set up in Mela Bhavan. It helped to control the mob and manage the traffic through artificial intelligence. Bureau Report, DD India.
Now, Election Commissioner Sushil Chandra has been appointed on Monday as the new Chief Election Commissioner. He replaces Sunil Arora, who has retired. A farewell ceremony was held in the honour of Sunil Arora at the Election Commission on Monday. Under the leadership of Sunil Arora, assembly elections in 11 states and polls for 17th Lok Sabha were held during his 2.5-year-long tenure. Sushil Chandra will assume charge of office of the Chief Election Commissioner on Tuesday. And it's time now to get you some more updates from around the country.
The CBI has summoned former Maharashtra Home Minister Anil Deshmukh for questioning on Wednesday in connection with allegations of corruption levelled by former Mumbai Police Commissioner Parambir Singh. The agency is holding a 15-day preliminary inquiry as ordered by the Bombay High Court. Assistant Police Inspector Riaz Qazi, a colleague of police officer Sachin Vaze, has been suspended from service by the Mumbai Police. Qazi's suspension comes a day after he was arrested by the NIA in connection with the recovery of an explosive-laden SUV found outside industrialist Mukesh Ambani's residence and the subsequent murder of businessman Mansukh Hiren. The Supreme Court has approved the ongoing process of dismantling India's decommissioned aircraft carrier INS Virat. Responding to the petition filed to stop it, the Apex Court said that it was filed too late. The court said that 40% of the ship has already been broken and it will not interfere in the dismantling process. The Supreme Court on Monday dismissed a plea both to scrap 26 verses from the Holy Quran and ban their subsequent teaching in madrasas. A bench led by Justice Nariman declared the writ petition as absolutely frivolous and also imposed 50,000 rupees as costs on the petitioner. The Kerala High Court has ordered the Election Commission to hold elections to fill up 3 Rajya Sabha seats from the state before May 2nd, when present Assembly's tenure will expire. The results of the recently concluded Kerala Assembly elections will be announced on 2nd May.
International news: in Iran has accused Arsh 4 Israel of sabotaging its key Natanz nuclear site and vowed revenge for an attack that appeared to be the latest episode in a long-running covert war. Speaking in a news conference on Monday, Foreign Ministry spokesperson Saeed Khatibzadeh said that multiple sources confirmed the Zionist regime was behind this. He added that Iran would replace damaged uranium enrichment centrifuges in Natanz with advanced ones. Meanwhile, Iranian nuclear energy chief Ali Akbar Salehi said an emergency power system had been activated at Natanz to offset the outage and there would be no major delay in the facility's operations. Iranian authorities described the incident a day earlier as an act of nuclear terrorism and said Tehran reserved the right to take action against the perpetrators. Earlier on Sunday, the spokesperson for Iran's Atomic Energy Organization had said that a problem with the electrical distribution grid of the Natanz site had caused the incident. Now, Japan started the COVID-19 inoculation campaign for its 36 million elderly people on Monday. Following medical workers, the elderly are the second category Japan has given priority for vaccination. Japan trails most major economies in starting inoculations after the Pfizer vaccine, and the Pfizer vaccine is the only one that is on offer there. Tokyo, Kanagawa and Osaka prefectures received 3,900 doses, while the remaining prefectures received 1,950 doses as of Sunday. Japan's Chief Cabinet Secretary Katsunobu Kato said the land of the rising sun hopes to boost vaccine delivery and there will be enough for all 36 million NLD recipients by the end of June. The government of Bangladesh on Monday issued the official notification for the week-long hard lockdown starting from Wednesday, that is the 14th of April, to control the spiraling COVID-19 pandemic in the country. According to the notification, public transport including buses, railways, waterways and flights will remain suspended, but freight transport services and vehicles needed for essential services will be allowed to operate. All public offices, both in the government and the non-government sector, will remain closed, except those involved in essential works like health services, COVID vaccination, media, power distribution, water, internet services, etc. Financial services, including banks, will remain closed during the period of the lockdown. However, factories will remain open under the authorities' arrangement, maintaining health safety guidelines. The authorities will ensure pick and drop-off services for workers. Hotels, restaurants, eating places will be open for takeaway or online services from 12, that is at noon, to 7 p.m. and then 12 a.m. to 6 a.m. Hong Kong will loosen some coronavirus measures for residents who have been fully inoculated from late April, the city's leader Carrie Lam said on Monday, as authorities seek to boost the take-up of vaccines in the global financial hub. Bars and pubs, which are currently shut, will be allowed to resume operations in phases provided all staff and customers have been vaccinated. Visitation to public hospitals and care homes could also be permitted for vaccinated people. The European Medicines Agency has said on Wednesday it had found a possible link between AstraZeneca's coronavirus vaccine and reports of very rare cases of blood clots in people who had received the shot. Safety concerns have prompted more than a dozen countries in recent weeks to suspend the use of the vaccine, which has been given to tens of millions of people in Europe after reports linking it to a brain blood clotting disorder in a few dozen recipients. Both the EMA and the World Health Organization have said the benefits outweigh the risks of the vaccine. New Zealand's Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern said on Monday that people working at the borders must be vaccinated by the end of this month or risk being moved out of the role after the third coronavirus case related to a frontline staff was reported. New Zealand has virtually eliminated the COVID-19 virus within its borders and there's been no community transmission for more than 40 days. But it reported a positive COVID-19 case in the community last week of a border worker who had missed 2 vaccine appointments. 2 more cases linked to this individual have emerged since. New Zealand has started vaccinating its border and managed isolation facility workers and their families with BioNTech Pfizer vaccines in its first phase. So far, it has vaccinated over 90,000 people. Does having school at the beach sound like a dream? After a year of remote learning and socially distanced classrooms, one school in the Spanish region of Murcia is doing just that, trying to combine clear air and a new way of teaching. Outside the Felix Rodriguez de la Fuente school, mask-wearing children sit before a portable blackboard at rows of green desks neatly spaced out on the sandy shores of Playa de los Nietos. Some barefoot pupils wriggle their toes in the sand as they play xylophones, while others crouch over their workbooks to prevent the breeze from blowing their papers out to sea. The lessons are part of a broader project known as Fresh Air, which aims to create better air quality for children during the COVID-19 pandemic, including through open-air learning. Teachers begin preparing the beach at 8 in the morning. 8 classes take place in 20-minute lessons and groups rotate through different areas. Now, while many nations are imposing stringent restrictions to contain the spread of COVID-19, England has eased some of them in London. People queued up outside retailers across England on Monday to release their pent-up shopping fever as England's shops reopened after 3 months of lockdown. England entered the second stage of the government's roadmap out of the country's third nationwide lockdown. After imposing the most heavy restrictions in Britain's peacetime history, Prime Minister Boris Johnson said the reopening was a major step towards freedom, but urged people to behave responsibly as the coronavirus was still a threat. In London's Oxford Street, dozens of people queued up outside Primark and Nike Town, undeterred by the unseasonably cold weather. Getting people spending again is crucial for Britain's recovery after official data showed that 2020 was the worst year for its economy in more than 3 centuries, with a 9.8% decline in gross domestic product. Hundreds of thousands of businesses have been closed since early January, when England entered into a third lockdown to stem surging infections driven by the Kent variant of the virus. Now, preparations have begun on Monday at Windsor Castle for the funeral of Prince Philip, due to take place on Saturday. The long-established plans for the funeral had to be redrawn and scaled down because of COVID-19 restrictions, but remain very much in line with Prince Philip's wishes. Philip, who was officially known as the Duke of Edinburgh, will be given a ceremonial royal funeral, not a state funeral, as planned before the pandemic. The funeral, which will be broadcast on live television, will be held at the castle's St. George's Chapel and will be preceded by a minute's silence across the country. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken has said that the U.S. is concerned about China's aggressive actions against Taiwan and warned it would be a serious mistake for anyone to try to change the status quo in the Western Pacific by force. Blinken added that the United States has a long-standing commitment under the Taiwan Relations Act to ensure that Taiwan has the ability to defend itself and to sustain peace and security in the Western Pacific. Tensions between Washington and Beijing soared as an American warship sailed close to Taiwan. On Friday, the White House said it was keeping a close watch on increased Chinese military activities in the Taiwan Strait and called Beijing's actions potentially destabilizing. The U.S. road movie Nomadland triumphed at the BAFTA Film Awards on Sunday, with Chinese director Chloe Zhao's intimate portrayal of marginalized Americans winning in 4 categories, including Best Film, Best Actress and Best Director. The socially distanced and largely remote award ceremony in London saw a strong showing by women directors in the run-up to this month's Oscars. Entertainment should look like what the world looks like. These were the words of India's pride in Hollywood, Priyanka Jonas Chopra, as she arrived on a pared-back British Academy of Film and Television Awards red carpet ahead of the ceremony. Chopra also said she believes improvements still need to be made in the industry. The golden icon was one of the presenters at the BAFTAs on Sunday night. She presented the award for Best Animated Film, which went to Soul.
And the BAFTA is awarded to Soul.
The British Academy of Film and Television Arts ceremony, aka BAFTAs, was held virtually over 2 nights due to the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, with nominees joining in by video. US recession drama Nomadland, about a community of van dwellers, continued its winning streak in the run-up to the Oscars. 39-year-old Chloe Zhao is only the 2nd woman to win in the directing category at the BAFTAs.
Chloe Zhao for Nomadland.
Thank you so much, BAFTA. Thank you so much. I think I just made my teacher at Brighton College really proud. A huge special shout out to Frances McDormand, who is a brilliant storyteller of her own. Thank you, Fran, for discovering Fern with me and for bringing so much joy to our journey. Thank you.
Adarsh Gaurav, who was nominated for the BAFTA in the Best Leading Actor category for his performance in Netflix's The White Tiger, lost the award to Anthony Hopkins. The veteran Welsh actor clinched the trophy for his performance in The Father. 83-year-old Anthony Hopkins described winning Best Actor as wonderful and unexpected. Hopkins portrayed a man with dementia and starred alongside Olivia Colman in The Father, which also took home the award for adapted screenplay. The actor cracked a joke, saying all that he had to do was to act old.
This is wonderful. I mean, I'm at this time in my life where I never expected to get this, you know. I mean, I got to a point in my life and I thought, I wonder if I'll ever work again. That's the actor's nightmare.
Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, a jazz drama set in 1920s Chicago, won 2 awards at the opening of the BAFTAs. The film, starring Viola Davis and the late Chadwick Boseman, also won the costume design and makeup and hair. Meanwhile, Indian stars Irfan Khan and Rishi Kapoor, who died in April 2020, were among the individuals who were honoured at BAFTA's In Memoriam segment, which also paid tribute to Prince Philip, Chadwick Boseman and Christopher Plummer. The In Memoriam segment honours personalities lost in the past year. In the meantime, British musicians and a BAFTA nominee took to the Film Awards stage to perform musical numbers at the ceremony. Former One Direction member Liam Payne opened the show with a rendition of his track With Alesso Midnight. Also, Brit Award nominee Celeste performed one of her 3 original songs from the trial of the Chicago 7. Now quickly recapping, let's go through all the winners who made their names in Sunday's event. Nomadland bagged award for Best Film. Sir Anthony Hopkins won the Best Actor award for The Father. Also, Chloe Zhao became the second woman to win in the directing category, with Frances McDormand winning the Best Leading Actress award for Nomadland. Promising Young Woman bagged the honour for Outstanding British Film, and My Octopus Teacher won the Best Documentary. Soul was announced as the Best Animated Film, while the present Farah Nabulsi bagged the award for British Short Film. Bureau Report, DD India. And pretty soon it will also be Oscar time. Now, Russia marked the 60th anniversary of the first space mission in history by cosmonaut Yuri Gagarin on Monday. Gagarin, only 27 years old at the time of his space mission, was the first man to complete humankind's first orbit around the Earth in his Vostok 1 rocket. His space capsule traveled at a speed of 27,400 kilometers per hour and orbited the Earth in 108 minutes. Gagarin gained international fame and was hailed by the Soviet leadership as a national hero. Gagarin was born in a village in the Smolensk region of Russia and became a jet pilot before he was selected as one of the pioneer cosmonauts on the Soviet space program run by Sergei Korolev. His successful space mission turned Gagarin into a worldwide popular figure, revered by Russians who turned up in their thousands to welcome him wherever he went. Gagarin never flew in space again, but worked as a trainer of other cosmonauts in a center which still bears his name today in Star City outside Moscow. He died 7 years later in a crash at Chkalovsky Air Base during a training flight on the 27th of March, 1968.
Кедр, я заря-1, зажигание.
And what a momentous moment was that for all humankind. And that's all we have for the moment in this edition of Newsnight Tonight. For all the latest, do stay tuned to DD India. And for all intents and purposes, do stay safe, mask up, and when you get a turn, get the dose as well. Good night.